The rusted world, the desert winds of Kael'vor, howled like a living thing. Dust storms painted the sky red, scraping against the metal husks of long-dead machines that littered the planet's surface. Whole mountain ranges of twisted gears and skeletal frames sprawled for miles. A graveyard of giants no one remembered building. Most called them the mechanism. To the locals, they weren't ruins at all. They were sacred, untouchable. But to Elias Carter, a scarred ex-soldier turned mechanic, they were puzzles begging to be solved. He crouched on the rim of a broken metallic canyon, wiping sweat from his brow. The machine ribs around him towered like cathedral pillars, glowing faintly with ancient veins of light. Somewhere deep in the ruins, he heard the low groan of moving gears impossible. The elders swore the mechanism had been dead for millennia. "Still alive, aren't you?" Elias muttered, fingers brushing the warm surface of the metal. His calloused hands felt the faint hum beneath the plates. Something deep inside the construct still ticked behind him. A soft chime rang. "Human," said a calm, melodic voice. Elias turned to see Tyralin, a tall alien with pale, glass-like skin and eyes that shimmered like liquid silver. She wore ceremonial bands across her arms, marking her as a lore-keeper. Her people, the Kael'ori, had guarded this place for thousands of years, forbidden from disturbing it. "You should not be here?" Tyralin said, her voice firm but not unkind. Elias grinned crookily. "Funny, you've been saying that every time you catch me sneaking in. This time is different." She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. "The Council knows. They say you defile the mechanism. They say your people came here to strip our world of secrets." He leaned back against the warm steel wall and shrugged. "Maybe some did. Not me. I just want to understand." "Machines don't get built without a reason." Tyralin hesitated, her long fingers brushing one of the glowing lines in the wall. She had grown up hearing the old hymns, the warnings. "Touch not the bones of the ancients, lest the world collapse again." Yet standing with Elias, she felt the same pull, a sense that something hidden was waiting to be uncovered. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why risk angering my people?" Elias looked away, his jaw tightening. "Because broken things deserve a chance to work again, even if everyone else gave up on them." Before she could reply, the mechanism itself answered. A thunderous tremor rippled through the ground. The canyon walls shuddered as gears, the size of houses shifted with a deafening clang. Sparks of blue lightning danced across the sky. Elias and Tyralin staggered, clutching at the walls. "What did you do?" She gasped. "Nothing." Elias shouted. It started itself. The ground split open beneath them, revealing a spiral stair of metal teeth descending into the abyss. From below came a steady, pulsing glow, like the heartbeat of something enormous. Our eye-lens eyes widened with terror. This is forbidden. We must leave at once." But Elias was already staring down the steps, breath caught in his throat. For the first time, he was certain. The mechanism wasn't dead. It was waking up, and it was waiting for someone, maybe him. Into the heart, the stair groaned under their weight as Elias and Tyralin descended into the abyss. The glow below pulsed brighter, casting shadows that warped across the gear-lined walls. Tyralin trembled. "If the Council learns of this—" "They won't," Elias said, though his voice shook. "Unless we die down here." The last step opened into a chamber vast as a city. Walls spiraled with pipes, conduits, and glass tubes filled with liquid light. In the center lay a colossal gear, suspended in midair, spinning silently, though no power source touched it. Tyralin gasped. "The core." Elias stepped closer, awe softening his usual rough edges. "It's still running." But then he noticed something stranger. A panel cracked open, wires exposed. It looked wrong. Tampered with. Someone had been here before. Suddenly, A low hiss filled the chamber. Figures emerged from the shadows Kalari in dark armor, council sigils etched across their chests. Their leader's eyes glowed crimson from a mechanical implant. "Should not be here?" the leader said coldly. Tyralen stiffened. "Counselor Vera." Elias's stomach dropped. He recognized that kind of tone-hard, fanatical. The kind of voice that led men into wars. Vera's gaze locked onto Elias. "You humans always pry. Always destroy what you touch. This place is not yours." "I wasn't destroying anything," Elias snapped. "I was fixing it." "Lies." Vera raised a hand, and the armored guards leveled their weapons. "The mechanism will remain silent, as it has for 3,000 years. Your meddling ends now." Elias clenched his fists, calculating. Outnumbered, unarmed, trapped. But he'd survived worse. His eyes flicked to the spinning core, its light beating faster, almost. Responding. Tiri whispered urgently. "Elias." "The core reacts to you." The guards closed in. And then the gear flared with blinding light. The chamber shook. The walls groaned. Strange symbols burned into the air above the core, spinning faster and faster until they formed a sphere of fire. Vera screamed, shielding his face. "Impossible." Elias staggered back as the light engulfed him. His skin burned, but not with pain, with energy. He felt the mechanism's pulse beating in rhythm with his own heart. The core had chosen him. Asterisk. The chosen the chamber still throbbed with blinding light. Elias staggered, gripping his chest as the pulse of the mechanism matched the rhythm of his heart. He felt every beat echo through the floor, through the vast gears surrounding him, as if the entire construct had bound itself to him. The Kalare guards fell back, their weapons trembling in their hands. Counselor Vera snarled, half-blinded, clutching his crimson-glowing implant. "This is blasphemy." Vera spat. The core does not answer mortals. But it had answered. The sphere of symbols hovered before Elias, lines of fire spiraling into shifting forms. The patterns weren't random. They formed diagrams, maps, schematics. He could read them, not with language but with instinct, as though some buried part of him recognized the code. Tyralane's voice shook. "Elias, what is it showing you?" I don't know," he whispered, eyes wide. "But it feels like it was made for me." The largest symbol swirled, breaking apart into lines that formed a star map. Points of light flared across the void worlds marked with the same pulsing glow as the core. Dozens of them, scattered through the galaxy. Tyralane's jaw slackened. Other mechanisms. Vera's fury boiled over. Enough of this. He drew a blade that crackled with charged energy. "You defile sacred ground with your human tricks. Guards kill him." The soldiers raised their weapons. Elias's stomach twisted, adrenaline spiking. He wasn't armed. He wasn't even supposed to be alive, not after the wars back home. He had promised himself Kale Vor would be peace. But peace never lasted long, did it? The core flared again. A wave of force exploded outward, slamming the guards off their feet. Their weapons clattered across the floor. Elias blinked. "I didn't do that." The core's hum deepened, like the growl of some slumbering beast. Symbols raced faster around Elias, embedding themselves into his vision until he could see them even when he blinked. Schematics of machines, gears, conduits like the mechanism itself was whispering its secrets directly into his mind. Vera roared, eyes burning. "You will not steal what belongs to us." He lunged with his blade. Tyralane cried out. "Elias!" Instinct took over. Elias raised his arm, and the mechanism obeyed. A panel in the floor snapped open, a gear spun, and a shield of pure light erupted in front of him. Vera's blade struck it and bounced away with a crack of sparks. The chamber fell silent. Asterisk. Everyone stared at Elias. His chest heaved, his arms still outstretched, the shield of light fading slowly into the air. Tiralan's silver eyes shimmered with awe. It shows you. Elias lowered his arm, trembling. Yeah, he said hoarsely. But I don't know why. The guards scrambled to their feet, dragging Vera back as the counselor's fury turned to something colder, more dangerous hatred. This ends now, Vera hissed. You think this mechanism favors you? Then you are a weapon, human. And weapons must be controlled or destroyed. He signaled his soldiers. They retreated into the shadows, their footsteps echoing up the stair. The threat lingered in the silence they left behind. Elias exhaled slowly, his legs threatening to buckle. Tyrolan rushed to his side, steadying him with her long hands. You should not be alive, she whispered. The core burns anyone who touches it. Yet it embraced you. Elias gave a shaky laugh. Guess it likes me. Asterisk, but deep down, unease gnawed at him. Why him? Why a broken man? An exile mechanic from a dying Earth? The star map still hovered above the core, dozens of glowing points scattered across the galaxy. Tyrolan's gaze lingered on them. I thought the mechanism was unique to Kael'vor, she murmured. But if there are others? Elias frowned. Then maybe they're all connected. Part of something bigger. The map shifted again. One point pulsed brighter than the others, far across the void. As Elias stared, a rush of images hit him: ships, machines, colossal structures spanning stars. A warning? A message? He staggered, clutching his head. Elias! Tyrolan caught him. The images faded, leaving only the steady hum of the core. He sucked in a breath. It wants me to find them. The other cores. Tyrolan's hands trembled. But if the Council believes you are dangerous, they already do, he cut in. Vera won't stop. He'll twist this, tell your people I'm a curse. And he was right. Asterisk. 2 nights later, Kalori streets echoed with whispers. Lanterns lit the plazas, casting long shadows over murals of the ancients. Loudspeakers carried the voice of Vera, smooth and venomous. The human trespasser defiled the core. His voice boomed. He wields Forbidden's power not meant for his kind. He threatens the balance of our world. Will you allow outsiders to seize what is sacred? Crowds murmured in fear. Many bowed their heads. Others clenched fists. Elias and Tyrolan hid in the back of an abandoned forge, gears and tools scattered around them. Elias worked quickly, repairing an old drone, hands steady even as his heart thundered. They're buying it, Elias muttered. He's turning me into a monster in their eyes. Tyrolan sat across from him, torn. Her people's laws screamed for obedience. But her eyes, those liquid silver eyes, held only conflict. You are not a monster, she said softly. He looked up, meeting her gaze. Yeah? Tell that to your council. Silence stretched between them, heavy with truths unspoken. Finally, Tyrolan whispered, if what you saw is real, if there are more mechanisms, then perhaps the ancients meant for you to awaken them. Elias set the drone aside, his voice low. And if I screw it up? If I wake something worse? Then you will do what you always do, she said. You will fix it? Elias barked a laugh, rough and tired. You put a lot of faith in a washed-up soldier. No, she said simply. I put faith in a human. For the first time in years, Elias had no reply, but Vera was already moving. That night, his forces raided human enclaves across Kael'vor, dragging settlers into the streets. Fires lit the horizon. His voice thundered from every broadcast. This is the cost of their trespass. Expel them, or share their fate. Elias and Tyrolan watched from the forge rooftop as smoke rose into the stars. Elias's hands clenched into fists. He's using me as an excuse to crush anyone different. Tiralan's voice was tight with grief. He twists fear into chains. Then we break them, Elias said, jaw set. We show your people the truth. The mechanism isn't a curse, it's hope. Tiralan's eyes widened. How? Elias turned toward the desert, where the core's glow still pulsed faintly through the storm. We go back. We unlock everything it's hiding. And we show them what it really is. Tiralan stared at him, torn between terror and conviction. Then she nodded. I will go with you. As they fled into the night, the star map burned again in Elias's mind. A dozen cores across the galaxy, sleeping, waiting. And somehow, impossibly, he knew this was only the beginning. Asterisk. The betrayal of the desert of Kael-Vor was black under twin moons, its jagged dunes casting long shadows across the rusted carcasses of machines. Elias and Tiralan moved quickly, cloaked in sand-worn cloth, their footprints erased by the storm winds. Every step toward the canyon felt heavier. Elias could almost hear the core calling beneath the earth, its pulse thrumming in his bones. We shouldn't be doing this, Tiralan whispered. Her silver eyes darted toward the horizon, where distant watchtowers glowed. Vera has doubled the patrols. If they find us... They won't, Elias said, though his own stomach twisted with doubt. I've done worse sneaking jobs. You mean in your war? His jaw tightened. Yeah, that? They fell into silence, broken only by the groan of shifting metal, as the mechanism shifted deep below when they reached the canyon rim. Elias dropped to one knee, scanning. No guards, no patrol lights, only the gaping wound in the earth where the spiral stairs led down. Looks clear, he said, but as they descended into the glow of the core chamber, Elias felt the hairs rise on his neck. It was too easy, too quiet. The core loomed ahead, its colossal deer turning slowly in mid-air, symbols of fire dancing above it. The star map still pulsed, brighter now, as though impatient. Elias stepped forward, but Tiralan caught his arm. Wait! Her silver eyes flicked across the walls. Something was wrong, and then the trap closed. Figures emerged from the shadows, armored Kalori with rifles glowing blue. Doors slammed shut across the chamber rim. Energy barriers sealed them in. Vera stepped forward, cloak trailing, crimson implant burning with cruel light. I told you, human, he said softly, almost pitying. Weapons must be controlled. Or destroyed. Tiralan's heart lurched. Vera! You knew we would come. He smiled, teeth bared. Of course. The core whispers to you, Elias Carter. But it whispers to me as well. I have seen what you would unleash. Chaos, war, humans, spreading like rust across the stars. Elias squared his shoulders. You don't understand. This isn't about war. The mechanism is more than you think. It is power, Vera snapped. And power must belong to those who can wield it without corruption. Your kind is too reckless, too violent. Funny, Elias said dryly. Coming from the guy holding an army at my throat. Vera's smile vanished. Seize them. The guards advanced. Elias's hands twitched toward the core, desperate, but nothing happened. The light that had answered him before now pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat fading. He whispered hoarsely, Why won't it work? Tiralan's voice broke. Because it tests you. The ancients, they never gave their power freely. You must prove yourself. Rough hands grabbed Elias, wrenching his arms behind him. The core's glow dimmed further, as though retreating. Vera stepped close, his crimson eye gleaming. See how quickly it abandons you. You are not chosen. You are a fool. The guards dragged Elias and Tiralan toward the stair. They were thrown into a council chamber at dawn, wrists bound with luminous shackles that burned against the skin. Towering Kalori elders sat in a semicircle, their faces carved with age, their ceremonial robes shimmering in the firelight. Vera stood in the center, his voice ringing with conviction. This human trespasser has defiled our holiest core. He awakened powers forbidden since the collapse. Already he poisons our land with lies of destiny and conquest. The crowd of citizens, watching from the balconies, hissed and murmured. Fear hung in the air like a storm. Taralan struggled against her bonds. Counselors, listen. The mechanism is not what we believed. It is a beacon, a guide left by silence. Vera thundered. His voice cracked like a whip. You betray your blood, Lorekeeper. You side with an outsider against your own kind. The eldest counselor, voice frail but sharp, leaned forward. Counselor Vera, what proof have you that this human threatens us? Vera raised his hand. A hollow projection flared to life, showing the core chamber, the shield of light Elias had conjured, the map of stars swirling around him. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Vera turned, his gaze sweeping the crowd. Look upon it. He wields the ancient's fire. Today it is light. Tomorrow it is conquest. Would you gamble the fate of Kael'vor on the mercy of a human? The crowd roared in anger and fear. Elias's throat tightened. He wanted to shout, to explain, but the weight of their hatred pressed like chains heavier than the shackles. The eldest counselor lifted a trembling hand. The law is clear. Trespass upon the core is death. The guard stepped forward. Tira cried out, voice breaking. No, you cannot. He is not our enemy. Elias closed his eyes. For a moment, he let himself imagine peace walking away, never touching the mechanism, letting the galaxy burn or thrive without him. Maybe that was easier. But then he remembered Earth, the cities abandoned, the people scattered, the way his hands had trembled as he fixed broken machines to keep families alive. Broken things deserve a chance to work again. His eyes snapped open. No, he rasped. You don't get to decide that. And then the core answered. The chamber shook. Walls groaned. Blue fire tore through the ceiling, splitting it apart. The floor cracked open, gears grinding as the mechanism itself intruded into the council's sanctum. Guards stumbled, elders shrieked, and Vera's crimson eye blazed with rage. Elias and Tyralen's shackles shattered as the floor beneath them gave way. They plunged into darkness, metal teeth spiraling around them, until they crashed onto a platform deep below the city. Groaning, Elias pushed himself upright. The air down here was warmer, humming with hidden power. Pipes glowed faintly, veins of light twisting like roots through stone. Tyralen rose unsteadily, staring around in awe. This level is not on any map. Before them, a vast door stood, its surface engraved with symbols older than Kalori history. Elias stepped closer. The engraving shifted at his touch, glowing faintly, rearranging into words in a language he shouldn't know, yet understood in his bones. To those who come after, to those who remember. He froze. His breath hitched. It wasn't alien. It was English. The builders. Truth. The glowing words burned across the metal door like fire etched in steel. To those who come after, to those who remember. Elias's throat went dry. His hands shook as he reached out, tracing the letters with trembling fingers. Tira, he whispered hoarsely. This is English. My language. My people's. Tyralen stared, her silver eyes wide. Impossible. The mechanism is older than Kalori memory. Older than the collapse. How could your kind? Her words faltered as the door shuddered. With a low groan, it split down the middle, gears grinding as massive panels slid aside. A rush of warm, dry air poured out, carrying the faint scent of oil and dust untouched for ages. Asterisk. Beyond lay a vast chamber, circular and cavernous, lined with crystalline panels. At its center stood a monolithic console, sleek, angular, still glowing faintly with lines of power. Above it, suspended in midair, a holographic projection flickered to life. The figure was human, a man, weathered and gaunt, clad in a patched uniform, marked with an insignia Elias didn't recognize. His voice crackled, distorted by centuries, but the words came through clear. "If you are hearing this, then we failed." Elias's breath caught. "We were the builders, explorers, dreamers. We crossed the void in search of life. And we found it. Too much of it. Something vast. Something we could not fight. So we built these mechanisms not as weapons, but as guardians. Engines of memory. Seeds of hope. We left them scattered, hidden, waiting for someone, human or otherwise, to finish what we could not." The projection flickered, his face blurring. "The mechanisms are keys. Together, they will form the beacon, a signal to rally the living against what comes. But beware the mechanisms corrupt, as all great power does. Only those who remember compassion will endure." The image dissolved into static. Elias stood frozen, his mind spinning. 100 questions clawed at him, but only one truth settled like stone in his chest. The builders were human, his own kind. The Kelori had guarded the mechanism for millennia, praying to it, fearing it, yet it was the legacy of humans long forgotten. Tyrolen's face was pale, stricken. "All our songs, all our laws. They were wrong." Elias turned, his voice low. "Not wrong, just incomplete. Your people kept this place alive when mine were long gone. Without you, none of this would have survived." But her eyes filled with anguish. "We worshipped ruins while truth lay buried beneath our feet. We condemned you as a defiler, yet this was always yours." "No," Elias said firmly, stepping closer. "It's not mine. It's ours. They built it for everyone, for anyone willing to keep the fire burning." For a heartbeat, hope flickered between them. And then the air rippled with static. A slow clap echoed through the chamber. Vera stepped from the shadows, his crimson eye blazing, flanked by armored guards. "Touching," he drawled. "Truly touching. The human claims ownership of the sacred. The lore keeper swoons at his side. But I see it clearly. This was always a weapon. And now it will be mine." Tyrolen's hand flew to her mouth. How did you follow us?" Vera smiled coldly. "Did you think the mechanism only answered to him? It whispers to me as well. It showed me hidden paths, deeper layers. Because unlike him, I am willing to do what must be done." He raised his arm. Energy surged from his implant into the console. The panels flared red, warping. The holographic figure twisted into static and into screaming faces. The chamber groaned as corrupted light spread like fire across the walls. "No." Elias lunged forward, but guards seized him, slamming him to the floor. The console shrieked with energy. Ancient gears ground against each other as if in pain. The crystalline panels shattered, and from the walls burst shapes hulking figures of metal and flame. Machines long dormant, twisted now by Vera's touch. Kelori war machines. Tyrolen staggered back, terror in her eyes. "You've corrupted it. You've turned the gift into a curse." Vera laughed, his voice cruel. "Curse? No, salvation. With these machines, the council will kneel. The stars will kneel. The mechanism is no beacon. It is a throne, and I will sit upon it." The war machine's eyes glowed blood red as they lumbered forward, each step shaking the floor. Their weapons hummed with killing light. Elias struggled against the guards, rage boiling through him. "You idiot! You're breaking it. You're breaking everything." But Vera only sneered. "The ancients failed. I will not. The core's hum deepened, almost a scream. The star map above flickered, points of light dimming as though dying. And in that moment, Elias understood. If Vera bent the mechanism fully to his will, it wouldn't just destroy Kale Vor. It would collapse the entire network of cores across the galaxy. Humanity's gift. The Builder's last hope. Twisted into a tyrant's weapon, the guards hauled Elias upright, dragging him toward the machines. Vera's voice rang out, triumphant. Look well, human. This is the future your people left behind. Power belongs not to dreamers, not to broken soldiers. It belongs to those who seize it. The war machines roared, their weapons charging. Elias met Tyrolen's gaze. Fear and fury burned in her silver eyes. He clenched his fists, forcing calm into his voice. "Then I guess it's up to us," he said softly. The first war machine leveled its cannon at them. Asterisk. War of the Gears. The chamber thundered as the first war machine unleashed its cannon. A beam of molten light tore through the air, obliterating a row of crystalline panels. Shards rained down like fiery glass. Elias dove, dragging Tyrolen with him. Heat seared his back, the air itself rippling from the blast. The corrupted machines advanced, each step shaking the ground. Twisted fragments of the mechanism's design. They were humanoid titans of rust and flame, their limbs jagged, their eyes burning red with Vera's corruption. Vera raised his arms, crimson implant pulsing. The machines mirrored his movements, like puppets on strings. His voice echoed through the chamber, triumphant. Behold the true will of the core. Not a beacon, not a memory. A weapon to command worlds. Guards pressed in around Elias and Tyrolen. Elias fought like a cornered animal, headbutting one, kicking another, wrenching himself free. He snatched a fallen rifle, its alien grip awkward in his hands, but serviceable enough. The first machine swung a massive arm, smashing the floor where he had stood. Metal groaned, sending a shockwave that knocked half the guards off their feet. Tyrolen shouted over the roar, "We cannot fight them head-on." Elias fired at a machine's chest. The beam sparked harmlessly off its armor. "Yeah," he muttered grimly. "Noticed that." The core's glow flickered overhead, pulsing erratically, as if struggling against the corruption. Symbols raced faster, garbled, on the brink of collapse. Elias's mind churned. Think, damn it. Guns wouldn't work. Brute force wouldn't work. But machines, all machines, had weaknesses. Joints. Power conduits. Logic cores. You didn't kill machines. You broke them. He scanned the nearest war machine. Its chest plates shifted when it moved, exposing faint seams between armor. Heat vents. Too brief for a rifle shot, but maybe enough for something else. "Tyra." He barked. "Can you distract it?" Her silver eyes flashed. Without hesitation, she darted across the floor, weaving between falling debris. The machine's gaze locked onto her, cannons charging. Elias sprinted behind it. He jammed the rifle into the exposed seam and pulled the trigger until the weapon overheated. Sparks erupted, gears grinding as the machine staggered, smoke pouring from its chest. Come on. Elias grunted. The war machine let out a mechanical shriek before collapsing in a heap of molten metal. The others roared, their glowing eyes snapping toward him. Vera snarled. "You think to outwit me, human? These are but the first." The chamber walls split open. More machines emerged, their hulking forms shaking loose sentries of dust. Elias's stomach dropped. Oh, hell. Asterisk they ran. Through collapsing tunnels, across bridges of grinding gears, chased by the thunder of war machines. The glow of the core pulsed erratically behind them, casting long shadows across the ruins. Tyrolen gasped as they ducked into a narrow corridor. "Where can we go?" "There is no escape." "There's always an escape," Elias panted. We just have to make one. The corridor opened into another chamber smaller, but filled with half-buried machines, broken and rusted. Their hulks loomed like corpses in a graveyard. Elias's eyes lit with grim inspiration. Tira, help me. He scrambled to one of the husks, prying open a panel with his bare hands. Inside, the core components were dead, but wires still clung like veins. He ripped one free, sparks biting his fingers. What are you doing? Tyrell Lane demanded. Improvising, Elias growled. Your friend Vera wants machines? Let's give him a malfunction he won't forget. He worked feverishly, bypassing circuits, twisting wires together. His hands bled, his heart thundered. Tyrellin joined him, her long fingers deftly splicing connections, her lore keeper's knowledge guiding her. Above them, the chamber shook. The corrupted war machines were forcing their way inside. Elias connected the last wire, teeth gritted. Here goes nothing. The corpse machine shuddered. Its eye lights flickered, sputtered then, flared blue. Not crimson, not corrupted. Asterisk, the machine slowly rose, groaning, towering over them. Ti, our Elen's jaw dropped. You reactivated it? Rewired it, Elias corrected, wiping sweat from his brow. It's not perfect. But it doesn't answer to Vera anymore. The war machines burst into the chamber. Vera's voice rang, furious. Kill them. Elias pointed forward. Siccome. The reawakened husk roared, slamming into the corrupted machines with bone-shaking force. Metal clashed, sparks rained, titans tore into each other in a storm of gears and flame. The chamber became chaos. Elias and Tyrolan dove for cover as their reawakened ally ripped an enemy machine in half before. Collapsing under the weight of 3 more. It bought them seconds. Precious seconds. Asterisk. We have to get back to the core, Elias shouted over the din. It's the only way to stop this. Tiralan's eyes burned with determination. Then we fight our way there. What followed was not war, but survival. Elias and Tyrolan darted through the labyrinth, always one step ahead of Vera's corrupted titans. They sabotaged collapsing bridges, triggered ancient traps, even lured machines into grinding pits where gears crushed them like toys. Each victory cost them bruises, burns, exhaustion. Tyrolan's arm hung limp from a near miss. Elias's hands shook from adrenaline and pain. Yet, with every setback, they adapted, improvised, endured. That was what humans did. At last, they stumbled back into the core chamber. It was worse now. The colossal gears spun erratically, throwing sparks like lightning. The star map overhead flickered, points of light winking out one by one. If it collapsed, Kale Vor would die. Maybe more. Vera stood at the console, crimson implant blazing, arms outstretched. His laughter echoed through the chamber as war machines gathered behind him, a tide of fire and steel. You cannot win, he boomed. The core bends to me. This world bends to me. Elias stepped forward, bloody and battered, his voice hoarse but steady. No, he said. The core doesn't bend to tyrants. It bends to builders. He sprinted toward the console. The machines roared. Cannons charged. Tyrolan screamed his name. And then the core itself convulsed, light spilling out in wild torrents, as though crying for release. If Elias couldn't stabilize it, if he couldn't fix it, Kale Vor would burn. He planted his hands on the console. Energy surged through him, burning like fire, flooding his veins with symbols, schematics, possibilities. The builder's legacy. The mechanism's memory. It whispered not commands but choices. Elias gritted his teeth, forcing his mind to focus. One wrong move, and it was over. He shouted through the pain, through the storm of fire and fury. Tira, trust me. She pressed her hand over his, silver eyes shining with tears. Always, The chamber shuddered, machines closing in. Vera screaming in rage, and Elias plunged his mind into the heart of the core. Asterisk. Humanity's gift, the core, consumed Elias. White fire seared through his veins. Symbols racing across his mind faster than thought. Schematic after schematic bloomed within him. Star maps, machine blueprints, histories written in light. The builders had left behind more than a machine. They had left behind memory dot, and now it demanded a WIELDER dot around him. Chaos raged. War machines advanced, cannons roaring. Tyrellin stood at his side, defiant, shielding his body from blasts with nothing but her courage. Vera's voice thundered like a god's. Submit. The core was meant for power, and I alone command it. But Elias saw deeper. Through the pain, through the burning river of knowledge, he understood what the mechanism truly was. Not a weapon. Not even a beacon dot. It was a question. A question the builders had asked across millennia. Who among you will care for what comes next? Who will build when all else has fallen? And the core responded only to those who answered with more than greed. Elias smiled through the agony. Yeah, I get it now. He thrust both hands forward. The core exploded in light. The machines froze mid-stride. Their red eyes flickered, stuttered, then dimmed. Vera staggered, clutching his head as the crimson implant sparked violently. What are you doing? He screamed. Elias's voice rang, amplified by the core itself. You think machines are about control, Vera, but machines are only as good as the hands that fix them. And mine, his eyes blazed like stars, are builders' hands. The war machines turned, slowly, not toward Elias, toward Vera. Their crimson lights burned out, replaced by a soft blue glow. No, Vera bellowed, his voice cracking with rage and fear. I am the core's chosen. Me, the machines advanced. He tried to command them, arms flailing, but they ignored him. One massive hand reached out, seizing him by the torso. He screamed as sparks erupted from his implant, frying circuits, searing flesh. His cries echoed off the chamber walls as the very weapons he had sought to control dragged him toward the grinding gears. Elias! Tyrellin cried. Stop them, he will die. Elias's jaw clenched. His hands trembled on the console. In that instant, he held Vera's life in his grasp. He could let the machines finish it, end the tyrant forever. Or he closed his eyes, thought of Tyrellin's faith, of the builder's question, of humanity's stubborn, maddening compassion. Not like this, he whispered. The machines froze, holding Vera inches from the grinding gears. His body smoked, his implant sparking. He was broken but alive. Elias exhaled. We're not executioners. We're builders. The machines released Vera, who collapsed, screaming, his voice ragged with hatred. You fool. You could have ruled. Elias ignored him. Asterisk, the core pulsed gently now, its erratic surges settling into a steady rhythm. The great gear turned smoothly, symbols flowing like calm rivers of light. Tyrellin knelt beside Elias, tears streaking her face. You did it. By the stars, Elias, you did it. He gave a weak laugh, swaying. Don't sound so surprised. But the strain had cost him. Blood trickled from his nose, his skin pale, his body trembling. The core had taken what it needed from him, and more. Tyrellin gripped his hand fiercely. Stay with me? Do not let go. The core whispered again, its voice only he could hear. You have answered. You have chosen not to rule, but to repair. Not to destroy, but to trust. Humanity is worthy. A final flood of images filled Elias's mind blueprints for healing machines. Maps of ancient knowledge, seeds of technology meant to rebuild worlds. A gift from the builders, passed on at last. He gasped as it seared into him and faded. The chamber fell silent. The aftermath was slow, heavy. The war machines stood idle, their blue eyes dimming to dormancy. The chamber glowed softly, like a heartbeat finally steady. Kael'ver's people arrived in waves, lorekeepers, guards, civilians all, staring in awe at the reborn Core. And at the human who had saved them. Tyralan stood tall, her voice ringing clear across the chamber. Behold, the mechanism has spoken. And it did not choose a tyrant, nor a conqueror. It chose a builder. It chose him. Elias staggered, embarrassed by the attention. Don't make it sound like I wanted this. But in their eyes, he was no longer just an outsider. He was part of their story. Later, in the quiet that followed, Elias and Tyralan stood together on the outer balcony of the mechanism's spire. The sky stretched vast above them, stars gleaming bright, no longer hidden by storms. The core's light pulsed upward, sending beams into the heavens like a signal fire. Elias leaned heavily on the railing, exhausted but alive. Tyralan's hand steadied him. He murmured, "You ever wonder if the builders were human?" She tilted her head. "They vanished long before your kind reached the stars." Asterisk. "Yeah," he said softly, eyes on the constellations. "But they thought like us. They left questions instead of orders. They believed in giving others a choice. That's about as human as it gets." Tyralan smiled faintly. "Then perhaps humanity has always been among the builders. Even if it took the long road to return." They stood in silence, side by side, as the core's light reached into the infinite dark, and for the first time in Kael'ver's memory, the world did not tremble. It waited. For what humanity and its allies would build next. Epilogue. Mysteries of the mechanism in the years that followed. The mechanism became not a weapon, but a library, a forge, a teacher. Its knowledge spread across Kael'ver, reshaping cities, healing the wounded, and opening new paths among the stars. Elias remained what he always was: a mechanic, a builder, not a ruler. He fixed machines, guided students, and taught that compassion was the strongest gear in any design. Tyralan stood beside him always, lorekeeper turned partner, carrying forward both her people's history and humanity's gift. And the mechanism's light never dimmed, because the builder's question had been answered, and the answer was humanity. Asterisk.